Discover the secrets behind Donald Trump's Masterplan. Dive into the clever moves of the former president that shook the world. From bold decisions to surprising tactics, explore how Trump wielded power like no other. In this video, we will be talking about Trump's journey through the twists and turns of his political game. Before we start, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to never miss out on any of our videos. Let's get started. Welfare reform. Trump proposed changes to welfare programs to make people work if they could. This meant that some people who got help with things like healthcare, food, and housing would have to have a job or do job training. Trump said this would help people become more independent and rely less on government help. He believed that by making these changes, people would learn new skills and find jobs, which would make them more self-sufficient. Trump thought it was important for people to work if they were able to, instead of depending on government assistance all the time. He hoped these changes would help people become more independent and successful in the long run. Healthcare. Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, ACA, which is also called Obamacare. They wanted to replace it with something else, but they couldn't do it. Instead, Trump's administration made some smaller changes to the ACA rules. They also made it easier for people to use special accounts called health savings accounts. These accounts let people save money for medical expenses and use it when they need it. So, even though they couldn't completely change Obamacare, they did make some adjustments to how it works. Program eliminations. Donald Trump wanted to stop some programs at the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. These programs were about things like studying climate change, making sure the environment is clean, and finding better energy sources. Trump thought the government was spending too much money on these programs. He wanted to either spend less money on them or stop them completely. Trump believed that by doing this, the government could save money and focus on other things that were more important. However, some people disagreed with Trump. They said these programs were really important for keeping the environment clean and protecting public health. They worried that cutting these programs could hurt the environment and make people sick. So Trump's plan to cut these programs faced a lot of arguments and criticism from people who thought they were necessary. Regulatory rollbacks. Donald Trump's administration wanted to change or get rid of some rules that had been made to protect the environment. These rules were put in place by earlier administrations to make sure things like the air we breathe and the water we drink are clean, and to protect wildlife and nature. But Trump's team thought that some of these rules were too strict or unnecessary, so they tried to change them. For example, they wanted to loosen the standards for air and water quality, emissions from factories and cars, and rules about how public lands and wildlife are protected. They believed that by rolling back these regulations, it would make it easier for businesses to operate without as many restrictions. Sovereignty and independence. Donald Trump wanted the United States to have more control over its own affairs without being too tied to other countries or international groups. He believed that some agreements and organizations were limiting America's freedom to do what's best for itself. So, he decided to pull out of some international agreements and organizations that he thought were not in America's interest or took away its sovereignty, which means its ability to make its own decisions. For example, he withdrew from agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal. Instead, Trump preferred to focus on making deals directly with individual countries, bilateral relationships, rather than working with many countries at once, multilateralism. He also wanted other countries to share more of the responsibilities and costs in alliances like NATO, instead of the United States carrying most of the burden. Trump believed that by doing this, America could be more independent and better protect its own interests. However, this approach sparked debates about the consequences of withdrawing from international agreements and the impact on global cooperation. Immigration reform. Donald Trump wanted to make immigration into the United States stricter. He believed that the country needed stronger border security to stop people from entering illegally. To do this, he proposed building a wall along the border with Mexico. Trump also wanted to limit the number of people allowed to immigrate legally, focusing more on bringing in people with certain skills or qualifications, a merit-based system. His administration also wanted to crack down on those who were already in the country illegally. This included deporting people who were here without proper permission and making it harder for them to stay. Overall, Trump's goal was to have more control over who comes into the country and to prioritize those who could contribute to the economy and society. However, his approach was controversial, with critics arguing that it could harm families and communities and go against America's history as a nation of immigrants. Economic nationalism. Donald Trump believed that it was important to protect American businesses and workers from competition from other countries. To do this, he put tariffs on goods coming into the United States from other countries. This made imported products more expensive, encouraging people to buy goods made in America instead. Trump also renegotiated trade deals with other countries to try to make them more favorable to the United States. He wanted to reduce the amount of money the U.S. was losing in trade with other countries, which is called a trade deficit. Additionally, Trump encouraged businesses to keep their jobs in factories in the United States instead of moving them overseas. He believed that by doing these things, it would help American businesses thrive and create more jobs for American workers. However, some people were concerned that these actions could lead to trade disputes with other countries and higher prices for consumers. Trade policy. Tariffs and trade agreements. Trump implemented tariffs on imported goods from countries like China, aiming to address trade imbalances and protect American industries. He also renegotiated trade agreements such as the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, which replaced NAFTA with the goal of promoting fairer trade practices. America First. Trump's trade policy was characterized by a focus on prioritizing American interests and bringing manufacturing jobs back to the United States. He advocated for policies that aimed to reduce the trade deficit and protect domestic industries. Infrastructure investment. Trump wanted to fix up America's roads, bridges, airports, and water systems by proposing a $1.5 trillion plan. He thought this would make everything better and more modern. But getting this plan approved by Congress was hard, and it didn't really happen while he was president. Trump believed that improving infrastructure would create jobs and make life better for everyone. However, there were disagreements about how to pay for it and what projects to prioritize. So, even though Trump pushed for this plan, it didn't move forward much during his time in office. Judicial appointments. Trump really wanted to pick judges who shared his conservative views for the courts, especially the Supreme Court. He got to choose 3 new judges during his time as president. These judges were important because they would make decisions about big issues for a long time. By picking conservative judges, Trump changed the balance of the Supreme Court to be more conservative. This means the court might make decisions that are different from before, affecting things like laws about healthcare, immigration, and more. Thanks for watching as we looked into what Donald Trump wanted to do for America while he was president. We talked about his big plans and how they changed things in the country. Whether you like what he did or not, Trump's time as president made a big impact. Keep learning and talking about where our country is going. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Take care, and let's keep moving forward together.